Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. Thank you for the great introduction. Very stimulating thoughts I heard today. My name is Max Amordeluso. I live in Luxembourg, but I was born in Italy, and I spent about 15, 16 years in the US. So I'm a little bit from around the place. I have the privilege of working with the Alexa organization within Amazon, and I have the privilege of working with something that I grew up reading about. I'm living, my present is what used to be my future. I read a lot of sci-fi. I read a lot of things about this. I hope at least the majority of you, or some of you, know what this is. This is the bridge of the original Enterprise, right? So I'm showing you this because this is the vision behind Alexa. This is a few years ago, a few people thought about what if we were to do the equivalent of the enterprise computer for everybody in their houses, in their cars, in their offices, and so on. And then from this vision, they started looking into a couple of trends. The first of them was machine learning. And they started realizing the marvel of feeding big data sets into machine learning and getting astonishing results and getting things that made sense, the patterns, and things could be done extensively. Then the second trend was the appearance of virtually unlimited computing power and virtually unlimited storage given by the cloud. So within Alexa, yes, as you might know or guess, we use Amazon Web Services. But the concept of clouds are those of this computing power that makes the analysis and the computational of these enormous data sets possible. And then the third, the fundamental factor, was voice. The voice is natural. Voice is what we use to communicate. Voice is what I use to communicate with you, with each other. Voice is also what we use to gauge the development of new human beings. We gauge the capability of communicating most of the time with voice, and voice is ours. We have our own. We can use it without thinking. Sometimes we should think a little more, perhaps, but or some of us. But the point is that we wanted to leverage, we wanted to figure out ways exactly to do that, to speak with technology to get things done in a natural way. Now, but the challenges that you might imagine are fantastically complex. Think about the bar. The bar for conversation is human to human. And it's extremely complex. And we do it without thinking. We do it, we give it as granted. But things like a disambiguation, the way that human beings are able to understand the intended meaning with not necessarily precise words for it. We might say one thing in 50 different ways to mean something. And we use context, we use nonverbal communication, we use our experience, our feelings. All of these things machines don't have, obviously. So we had to figure out some ways to get us there. And we're absolutely not there. So this is just the beginning. We're just scratching the surface of this because, again, the bar is extremely high. Think about also figuring out ways, engineering challenges to understand what is the actual message intended for the computer versus the noise. What if you're talking with him instead of with Alexa? How do we understand that, right? So these are really complex challenges. And in 2014, in November 2014, we launched the first Echo in the United States. So let's make first a distinction for those of you that might not be aware of that distinction. Alexa is the cloud-based voice service versus Echo is a family of devices made by Amazon that are Alexa-enabled. And I made the distinction Amazon made because later on I'll show you how we are opening, or we have opened this voice science to third parties. So this is one of the first devices that we launched in the United States. And it had things like built-in privacy layers that we have developed since to make sure that this was a device that continued trust. The relationship with the customer is crucial for Amazon. Security is an absolute priority for Amazon. And in these devices, we built multiple layers to exactly ensure that security. Things like awake word detection. So Alexa listens only for awake word before streaming anything to the cloud. Until the wake word is understood, there is no streaming to the cloud. And Alexa does not parse, does not kick in and trying to understand what you're saying. The second thing is that, there is a visual component. If you see on top of the ring, there are usually six arrays. There is an array of 6 microphones plus one on top that create a cone of sound that enables Alexa to pinpoint the direction from which a person is speaking, so that it can isolate and focus exactly on that stream of sound. And there is a visual feedback when Alexa streams on the cloud, exactly to give the awareness of the human user that there is that listening function on. Other layers of privacy that we've included is that the control over everything Alexa hears. Anybody can go on the app, or the web app, or the mobile app to see what Alexa has heard. And then you can delete some, everything, or just part of this intent history, as we call it. But we hope you keep it, because everything that Alexa hears from humans makes her better, makes this machine learning model fed with this data and adapts and gets better to understand humans. One more thing that we built into these devices was also onboard noise removal and noise canceling, so that people could be heard also when the devices were playing music, for example. Now I want to show you something always, or still related to the initial vision. So look at this.
Computer? Computer? Hello, computer. Just use the keyboard. The keyboard.
All right, so who remembers a mouse? We still do, right? So I don't use it. I haven't been using it in probably 5 or 6 years, but we all remember mice, computer mice, right? But think about this. This is from 1986. This is when the crew of the Enterprise goes back in time and is in the 80s America, and this is exactly what happens. They're accustomed to give give no thought about being able to use voice to command technology, to get things done. And this is exactly. But we're living this phase here now. So this is amazing for me. Now, so if you fast forward, so this is one of the newest devices. And by the way, last week, for those of you that might be following Amazon or the announcements of Deco, we announced a wave of new products and features and some of them I'll talk about it briefly later on. But the point is that there is a lot of devices out there, but they're not made by Amazon. The idea is that we want to have Alexa everywhere. We want customers to have the choice of where they want this voice interface to enable their lives, to make them better. And a customer has to have a choice. And that's why we have created, we have these two frameworks by which on this side, the Alexa Skills Kit is the way that developers everywhere can, free of charge, create voice experiences to be added into Alexa. Let's say that you want to transform Alexa into a pizza delivery service, into a BBC transmission, or into a pizza, or into a Uber, into a ride sharing, anything that you might want. If it makes sense on voice, you can build on Alexa Skills Kit. The other framework is the Alexa Voice Service. This is a framework that a set of tools that enable manufacturers of physical things to put Alexa into their products. So as we saw from the slide before, the majority of these devices, this robot, for example, that big round lamp made by GE. So these are devices that are made by third parties leveraging that Alexa Voice Service. So this is, again, another free framework that enables to build voice experiences, Alexa, to embed Alexa into products. Now, speaking about skills, and a skill is the voice equivalent of an app for mobile devices that we all carry in our pockets. In the voice world, in Alexa world, in Alexa parlance, an Alexa skills is the equivalent, is the voice equivalent of an app. And like all apps works, there are two main parts. There is a front end, there is a back end. The difference, fundamental difference, is that we are developing experiences that have to be as natural as possible. Hence, the effort that you have to put into this new discipline that is voice interface design is something new, but it's something crucial that is going to make the difference between a great voice experience and a voice experience that does not do what customers expect it to be doing. And then the back end, there is various ways. I will not go into the details right now. If any of you have specific questions, I'll be delighted to answer them later. Now, several skills types that can be built today. There are skill types that can leverage APIs, meaning that you can leverage things that are pre-built for you, things like smart home API. If you want to build experiences that address ways of controlling connected device, you can do so by leveraging APIs. Or if you want to do things like flash briefings, for example, which are small pills of quick and time-sensitive content that are then selected by users on a menu-like style. You can select a few, you can select several, you can listen to them in order, going back and skipping them and so on, assembling the way that you want the news to be delivered to you. Now, by the way, who uses Alexa skills here? Two people, 3 people, fantastic. So this is a blank slate. So there is out there more than 50,000 skills available via the Alexa Skills Kit. And some of the brands that you see here, even if you don't use them on Alexa Skills, they are brands that you likely are familiar with at least. And there is a lot of categories out there. There is a lot of brands that are engaging with this new concept of enabling voice interfaces because customers want that. So giving you a little anecdote, we also have 3 kids, 8, 7, and 4 now. For the last 3 years, they've been using Echo devices in our house. As you might guess, there is a lot of them in my house. And since the first time we brought them in, they never worried or they never wondered how that they work. They just understood one fundamental thing, that these devices did things for them. Give them the jokes they wanted, the music they wanted, and made them laugh. It doesn't matter how. They just embraced this technology. That was beautiful to see. And and kids like mine, like a lot of others of the same generations or similar generations, are growing up thinking that it's perfectly okay and perfectly normal commanding technology with voice. So think about that. So this is inevitable. This is happening. And this is the beginning of a new phase that is as revolutionary as the web has been, as the mobile revolution has been. This is the voice revolution. But again, let's take a step back. Does it make sense for everything? Will everything need to be voice-enabled? Absolutely not. You can do it, but your customers might not necessarily click with this concept. You have to think in terms of what are proper and good use cases to do this. Now, as I mentioned before, we had a big announcement last week. We have announced over 70 new things between new physical products and features and services. I just picked one of them. This is the new Echo Show. So this is part of a family of devices that we call multimodal devices. And we started looking into this approach because we heard that customers, in addition to voice first, which is very empowering, which is the paradigm at the basis of everything, of Alexa, they also had the light, obviously, with a visual component. And we developed these devices. This is a second-generation Echo Show that enables to have a visual component that is still commanded by voice. One of these is in our kitchen when we cook, hands dirty, or we're washing something, and there is a flow of information flowing between us and these devices, and it's feeding information the way we want it, and we can command hands-free. Now, some of the things that we heard very loud and clear from our developers, from the developers Alexa Skills Kit, was monetization needs, right? And in 2017, we started something called Alexa Developer Rewards, where Amazon pays out money to the developers, to the creators of those of the most engaging skills in particular categories. And there are 8 categories. So Amazon pays out these developers. There is a couple of interesting stories out there. If you're interested, you can look them up on the Alexa blog. And there is individuals that have created a startup to create these voice experiences and have funded with this program. Other things that we have recently added are in-skills purchasing. possibility of having transactions on the skill, contextual transactions, things like subscription or consumables. Think about a game that delights your customers, delights your users, and they want more. This is something that comes up with a new question, let's say, daily. If they want more, they can have it on the day by paying an extra. Or extending or getting a particular item on a voice game that you have developed, you can have now a transaction of that kind. There is also something that we launched, is the integration with Amazon Pay for Alexa skills. And you can see here that Virgin Trains was the first train service providers in the world to have a beginning-to-end experience possible on Alexa. You can go on Alexa and say, Alexa, find me a specific train on Virgin Trains, and you can complete the transaction using Amazon Pay. But think about the opportunities that this affords. Amazon Pay, using Amazon Pay with a skill, what does it mean for the user? You have to think in those terms. It means that an Alexa user is an Amazon user, that has Amazon credentialed to pay, and that reduces friction. You can complete a transaction here without having to pull up a credit card. So this is the real power. You can create, as developers, if you so want, an experience that has a payment system embedded that is very, very, very low friction. Now, a couple of other things, categories that are particularly relevant for me personally and for developers all over the world, kids' skills categories. We created ways of creating skills and experiences for kids specifically. In Europe, we define kids in this specific category, any young person below 16 years of age. And with the framework of parental control, we also created the possibility of creating experiences that can be shared by the whole family. So just to pick one of them, to give you an example, Kids Court on that on the top right. This is a skill that transforms Alexa into Judge Lexi to resolve conflicts between kids. This is brilliant. It was created by a developer. Her name is Adva Levine. She created a fantastic framework, a great story, where the skill actually gives roles to the kids, a perpetrator, an attorney, a victim, and then figure out ways potentially to resolve this conflict. And it's genius. It's sheer genius. Now, and there is a lot more that can be built out there, but one particular subject that I think I want to leave you with is that these devices, Echo devices, Alexa-enabled devices everywhere, or the concept itself of a cloud-based voice service have enormous possibility and potentials to do good. Think about a scenario in which you have an older person that is most of the time in the house and needs to be reassured many, many times a day, 20, 30, 40 times a day, that a door is closed, that the gas is closed, that a window is properly locked, and so on. Think about asking that question to another human being. Frustration kicks in very fast. With Alexa, there is no frustration. Think about the same person that might have a reduced mobility, that needs to turn on off the lights, blinds, thermostat, manage a house. There is a lot that can be built out there. Now here, I wanted to show you this is Maura. So Maura is the grandmother of one Alexa skills developer that I befriended from Dublin, and she uses Alexa. And she uses Alexa very naturally, because there is a parallel between the young people that I mentioned before, kids, and the older population. They both don't really care how that works. It just does things for them. And older citizens, older people can relate to the fact of speaking to a device. My grandma used to speak with the radio. The radio never spoke back the way that she meant. So, but this is the point, right? So now there is that generation can very easily relate to these devices, because these devices now contextually are meaningful for them. And now, this is the most important slide of the whole talk. So you have to remember why we're doing this. We're doing this because this is natural. If we do it right, this will be natural. It has to leverage those points. So if you are thinking of developing Alexa skills, don't think in terms of a technical project. This is, has to be a natural people-based project. Think about the way that you're going to design the conversation. Think about the human-to-machine interaction. And this is exactly what the BBC team is doing here. They are designing the conversation. They're playing out the conversation between people. Because if you got something, if you try this out and you have a conversation between human beings that is not really natural, you can be sure it's not going to be any more natural between a person and a machine. So work on the conversation if you're thinking about doing these voice experiences. With that, I thank you very much, and I bid you a great evening. Thank you.